Hi everyone, welcome back to What's Next with Lacey, the podcast where I interview young professionals about their career journeys so far. This is my very first video episode and I am so excited to finally share it with you all. I won't lie, it took a lot of time to figure out how to edit this into something coherent and learn an entirely new editing platform. So if you do manage to catch this episode on YouTube, give it some love, send a comment, share it with a friend, whatever it is you do on YouTube. And if you're catching this on Spotify, you know a review is always helpful. But thank you all in advance for your patience with me with this episode, and I am just so excited for you guys to hear it all. I am also incredibly grateful to my guest, Buckles, for joining me. We talk all about her career journey, as well as her brand new podcast, Buckle Up, which is available wherever you get your podcast. Buckles and I first met when I was training with her to be an associate producer for TV. She was a teacher, a mentor, a friend, truly amazing human. Since her producing days, she has stepped away from that and is focusing solely on writing and directing. And I am so incredibly impressed with everything she has done. Having worked with her, I can confidently say that she is truly a creative force. I have no doubt that we will be hearing her name all over the place very soon. So I don't want to spoil too much because Buckles really says it all, but listen closely because she shares some really genuinely thoughtful and valuable advice that I think will resonate with so many of you. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please enjoy this episode and I'll see you again soon. Bye. Buckles, hi. Welcome to What's Next. Hi, it's so good to see you. How's it going?
It's so good. I'm so excited to see you. It's been literally years, maybe even pre-COVID.
It's been, certainly a very long time. Yeah. Gosh, honestly, I can't even look back and figure that out. It's been certainly very long since we've last seen each other. You were such a godsend to me when I was working on sets, and I spent far too long asking you very silly questions.
Not silly.
And you very dutifully responded to. No, I probably asked you the same question about 100 times, but I was like so scared of messing up that I was like, please help me.
No. That was me with Kelsey Kiley, who I learned how to produce from.
Yeah, everyone's passes it down, that like level of anxiety of like, I need to get this 100%.
Right. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I am so happy to have you here and to learn all about your story and to learn about your podcast, because you also have a podcast called Buckle Up. We're definitely going to dive into that. But why don't we just start with, you are a writer, a director, a producer. What are you working on now? What have you been up to recently?
So I have like a couple of things that I have going on. I feel like you always have to have, like, as a freelance independent filmmaker or director or whatever, you just have to have like 5 or 6 things going at the same time as to not go crazy, because it takes so long to get things made and development, and just like things just go on and on and on. So I have several different things going right now. I feel like the 2 things that are the most top of mind or at the front is I have a feature film that I wrote called Mother that I'm going to be directing and shooting either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. It's going to be one of those 2. We just haven't locked. We're out to my favorite actress right now that I'm so excited about. And so fingers crossed she says yes. We're supposed to find out this week. And so once we figure out her availability, we'll start locking in dates. And then the other thing was I wrote a rom-com for an Australian production company. And so very random. So that script just got optioned, and that will probably shoot in Q1 in Australia next year. So I've just been working on those 2 things mostly.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To huge projects. I can't wait to hear how both of those go. Is there like anything else you can tease about them? Like any kind of synopsis or anything that we can know?
Well, I mean, I'll say the feature that I wrote was like a feature that I wrote in response to having trouble getting my other feature that I co-wrote with Lacey, No Man's Land made. Her and I shot a short film that premiered at Palm Springs in 2022. And after that, we wrote the feature film, and that was done by 2023. And we've been taking it out, trying to get it made. Long story short, since I'm considered a quote unquote first time feature director, I use quotes because I've directed a bunch, but that's sort of my label in the industry, I would say. So in order to, it's just harder to get financing for something. And the story was something that required a budget of probably 7 million. So that's kind of a big number to ask as a first time feature director. So it'd gotten really close to getting financing a couple of times and getting people attached. And then people would back out at the last minute. And twice it was like, call me on your second film. And the one, it was like, this is like, I'm maybe in April or something. There's this one producer who's so lovely. I'm like, I hope to work with her. She's amazing. But I was so excited about her. I knew she really liked the script. I knew she really liked me. And I got a text, basically like a breakup text being like, I want to work on your second movie. And my producing partner, Nathan Martis, called me and he's like, it's okay. We got this. And I just like cried. I was just like, what do I have to fucking do? Like, this is so frustrating. So I wrote Mother kind of out of this frustration of how I was like, okay, well, fine then. I'm going to fucking write a screenplay that's way easier to make, that's way fucking cheaper. You know, so it's basically a road trip story that I'm shooting in Arkansas because my producing partner is from Arkansas and he's doing a lot of work to bring more film to that area. So Northwest Arkansas, if anybody wants to, it's gorgeous, Bentonville, Rogers area. So we're shooting up there. But anyways, and the budget is much lower. It's like sub $500,000. So we got the financing, everything is locked in. So now we're just locking in talent. And that's, I should have had like a log line locked and loaded. I don't have one for that. I haven't been pitching that one as much because it was just like, oh, I'm just going to make this no matter what. Like, I'm not pitching this to anybody because I'm just going to fucking make it. Like, it's nobody's business whether I make this or not. So, anyways, my producing partner loved it and everybody who's read it has loved it. So I was like, okay, great. I feel good about this. And then the Australian script, that one's like fun. It's different because I would say I write to direct. So I'm not like a screenwriter per se. Like, I really enjoy crafting stories, but being on set and being a director is much more my speed and much more what I enjoy. But anyways, so I wrote this thing and it's like the reason I'm making it is because there's so many tax incentives in Australia that, which is like, that would be like a hot tip to like anybody who's like a screenwriter who's like coming up or like a director that's trying to get something made. Do some research with like a freaking like line producer or UPM about like what jurisdictions are like tax incentives. I think recently, this might have gone away, but I think recently it was like Kentucky. Sorry, I'm going way off the rails, but
no, I love it.
But Kentucky has a tax incentive for filmmakers. It was like $10 million, which is like a lot of fucking money. So truly it's interesting too, if you can, because so often in like the zeitgeist, I feel like I'll be talking to producers and they're like, and this is not an actual thing that's said, but it being like, yeah, here, Amy Adams is looking for her next thing. And, it's got to be, and all these things where it's like, there's so many things where it's like, if you can like hone your skills as a screenwriter and be like, okay, here are the prompts. It's got to be Amy Adams. It's got to be in Kentucky. It's got to be, and be able to write to that. So that was kind of, a rom-com is definitely not my voice or my tone. But I was like, okay, let's just like have fun with this. Let's like have it be a writing exercise and see if I can do it. And so I just kind of had fun with it. And and now it's going to get made in Australia next year. So we'll see.
I am so excited to see both of these. I know they're going to be incredible because I know your work. I know how talented you are. So I'm very excited to see them both.
Thank you.
So diving in a little bit more into the nitty gritty, kind of zooming in, you mentioned you always have to have all these projects going. Each of these projects could be in a very different stage from, idea to being made to, actually being screened. So what would a day look like for you? Say you're not on set, but you have a clear day. What are you working on? how do you divide up your time and so on and so forth?
I think it varies depending on like what I'm doing and where I am and what stage in the process I am. I'll say like right now, I'm in, well, I don't know. It's hard because I think when I'm in development, it's like I get up probably around like 7 and I have coffee. I have like a slow morning and then I'll start writing. I'll go for like a walk because I'm like obsessed with like getting just like outside before I start doing things. I'll go for like a walk with my dog and then I'll come back in and I'll start writing, just trying to do like a normal work day. I'll probably like answer emails for a little bit and then I'll like write for a little bit, have lunch, and then it's kind of like throughout the week, I'll have like Zooms or meetings or like a writing meeting with somebody, or I live in upstate New York. So sometimes it'll be like, oh, I need to have a dinner with a financier. So I'll go into the city to have dinner, and I'll take Amtrak because you can write and so it's like chill to take Amtrak. I like doing that. And my husband's a cinematographer and a camera operator. So we travel around a lot. So I feel like my day-to-day always kind of depends on where I am. Like right now we're in a completely different city. And so I like when we come to a new city, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out where my coffee shop is, where I'm going to be working out. Cause I like have to like, sometimes if I haven't worked out for like 2 days because I was, up against a deadline for that feature. And I was like, oh, I've got to get it out there. But then I just went to the gym and I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was like, you have to keep up with it. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of, I don't know if that answered your question, but I feel like,
no, it does.
Yeah, it changes a lot. I think that you have to be like, okay with finding like rhythm and normalcy in irregularity.
So would you say then that your writing is predominantly what you're spending your time doing? You mentioned you're writing to direct. So indeed, it's like when you're not on set, you are spending most of your time writing. Is there someone else who is helping you? You mentioned a producing partner. Do you have someone else who's helping you get those meetings with the financiers, meet up with any other producers to pitch to, that kind of thing?
I mean, I would say like, I spend a lot of time writing, but I also spend a lot of probably equally or maybe a tiny bit less doing like pitch decks. Like I spend a lot of time thinking about the world of whatever I'm doing. You know, every project I have has some sort of visual like storybook or tone thing or pitch, whatever. Just I spend a lot of time on like Canva and Shot Deck, like building out what the worlds are. So I'll use this software called Scriptation, which is I don't know if anybody knows what it is, but it's amazing. It's like a really intuitive like app for filmmakers. So I can like upload my script in there, and then you can like drag and drop, images and I mean, you can do so much.
Oh, cool.
But I'll go through like page by page and be like, okay, this is here's my shot list. Here's what I'm thinking. So I'll do a lot of that to get like really clear on like the story I'm trying to tell visually. I apply to so many grants and programs and, development initiatives. I apply to so many that sometimes I'll get a rejection from one that I'm like, you could not pay me to know what that was. So I apply to a lot of those things, which can be kind of time consuming. So my producing partner, Nathan, he does a lot of the more like boots on the ground, like finding financiers and talking to different producers and things like that. He's like very charismatic and personable. I'm like, I turn into a gremlin after 9:00. I'm going to a film premiere at TIFF on Saturday, and I saw the ticket. It was at midnight, and I was like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem for me.
You could not catch me doing that either.
I also just like don't drink that much. And so like being at a noisy bar, like shouting over people is like it's just like I don't like that. And so he's so good at that. And he's like so good at like talking to people. So he's very good in that sense. I'm good for like a coffee meeting or like a lunch. That's really where I shine. But I also have an agent. I'm represented at Gersh. And so Jonathan Martin, he does a ton of work of just getting like I have no idea. First of all, I have no idea what agents do. And I have to like, so I used to be predominantly just a producer. And so I have this producerial brain where like, I just have to know how the sausage is made because I don't know, because I'm like mentally ill. I just have to know. And so I've really had to learn how to like let go and trust with Jonathan because yeah, he knows what he's doing and I don't.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like similar brains, I would be exactly the same.
It's torture for sure.
Yeah. I'm such a micromanager, especially of something that you're so proud of and is like your baby essentially. Yeah. This is you and a part of you. So I so see that for sure. On that note of, applying to grants and all of this, I'm just going to ask it like this. How'd you get your money? How are you making money?
Okay. I love this question because A, I think it's like so important, but B, my husband supports me, like full transparency. Like I got some money when my script got optioned for the Australia project that I got some money from that. And then $7,000 just to be fully transparent. And then I'm going to be shadowing on a show that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but and I'll get paid. I think I'll get paid like a stipend of like $1,600 a week or something. And that's for 2 weeks. And then my podcast does not make money. I think you have to
not as mine,
dude. I mean, it's something ridiculous. I think it's like before you start making money, you need sponsors, but B, to even like approach sponsors, you need something like 225,000 views. Anyway, I have no idea. Anyways, all that crap.
A number that I will never reach without.
No, I mean,
not gonna say never. Never say never.
But yeah, I truly don't know. And then let's see, I'm trying to think of last month I got a job at a wine shop that's up by my house. It's like, I'm friends with the wine owner and I used to work as a bartender for a long time and I have like some sommelier classes that I've done. So, and it's just this like little wine shop where I would just like be by myself and like write all day and then like help people as they came in. This is like a really low key, like non-committal job. And I told him just straight up, I was like, I can help you a little bit, but then I've just got to get out of here. So so I got like a little bit of money from that. Oh, and then on my feature that I'm going to be shooting, I'm not going to make any money on that. I'm deferring all of like what I would have been paid to my crew into to the movie, like directly into like the labor and actually what shows up on screen. And all that to say that it's like, it's like, if I sell the movie, once the movie gets made and goes into production, I'll make a much larger paycheck. But it's like, I feel like I'm still on the cusp of starting to get those bigger jobs and bigger paychecks. But I would not have been able to be where I am now without the support of my husband. And I don't say that to say like, if you don't have that support, it's like, it's not going to happen. Cause like I was making it happen before I met my husband.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was one of the producers on Search Party. And I think that it's like when I was a producer, it just took up my entire brain. And even when I had the time to focus on myself, I would feel guilty for any like brain space that I was giving to my projects and not to Search Party, that I was like somehow letting the show down if I was like, and looking back, obviously that's like not true. But I think that it's kind of like two sides of a coin where it's like, I got so much out of Search Party and I learned so much and I don't regret doing that at all. But sometimes it's like, maybe it would have been better to, just be a bartender. So it's like a job that you can like turn your brain off and go home and focus on your art. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. But I think that like the connections I made and the things that I learned on Search Party are like invaluable, especially for me, somebody who didn't go to college. So I don't have this like extensive alumni or people that I can turn to.
Yeah. It just goes to show that there's so many different ways to do it and there is no one way.
Yeah.
And you can make it happen however you want to make it happen. But from what I'm hearing, like the most important thing is that you are working on your projects and you are dedicating that time. And so that might mean working two jobs which require brain space, like your own writing and producing, or it might mean bartending and doing your own work as well. But you have to figure it out, and that's the number one thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. I was just talking to my friend Sarah, and we were talking about, we were talking about motherhood, and so this is a completely different context, but of just, that you deal with the season of your life that's happening now, and it's a season. And I think something that, like, when I was younger that I wish I knew then was that, like, nothing is permanent, and just, it might feel like this now, it won't later, it'll just continue to change and evolve.
So then, looking at the other side of things, looking at your time on set, you've worn the producer hat, you've worn the director hat. I know that's your main goal, directing, but what does that look like? Bring us into the director's chair on set. How does it feel? What are you doing? That kind of thing.
I mean, I think from like I direct TV and film. So, and both of those are just completely different animals. I think that, with a guest, at least like when you're a guest director on a TV show, the way I would put it is like, you're hosting Christmas dinner for a close-knit family who you've never met before, but you're like hosting it. So it is like, you have the most important job on set. So in like a sea of people who are so close, who've been like so close to this project, who've been working on this thing for like possibly years and years and years. So it's a very different experience than, directing your own film. And also like, in TV, writer is king, and in film, director is king. So it's of course like directing your own film is a little more fun. But at least for me, I mean, I love TV because I love the community, and it's like fun and fast paced, and you're meeting new people, and it's exciting. But yeah, I think that like directing my own films is something I really enjoy. And I think that I'm trying to think of like a bite-sized thing that I can say of like what it's like to direct. But I think that for me, I've never felt like so connected to like my humanity than I do when I'm like on set and I'm like in a scene. Cause I feel like, at least my style of directing, I'm very like in it with the actors. Like I'm definitely like on the ground, like not acting with them, but I'm in the scene with them. And there's like this emotional scene or an intense scene. It's like, you can feel the crew like get quiet and like hunker around. And there's something just like really special and like magical about that I like really enjoy. But yeah, I also just enjoy like as a producer, there's the job of directing is very like managerial, and it is, like like an absolute concert of personalities, and you kind of have to make sure that everybody feels seen and heard, and there's so many like egos because of, and not even in like a bad way, it's just like you have a sea of like creative geniuses all crammed into one box, and they're all experts in their own field. And so making sure that they all have their opportunity to shine and opportunity to be like, here's my contribution, here's my thumbprint, is so important. And I enjoyed that process too, of just becoming like the mother hen of this like group of people. Because also I write the story and I come to set and I'm the director. But at the end of the day, it's like, what I'm really excited about is like, what do you have to say? Yeah. What do you have to bring to the table? I've been in the process of casting this actress, and I'm just like so excited. But it was like one of the things I was talking to my agent about. I was like, hey, like whatever we do, whoever does this, it needs to be an actress who's down to clown, who's like down to get dirty, who's down to collaborate. Like, I don't want somebody like yawning on their way to set with a cup of coffee to just like get their coverage and go home. I need somebody who's like excited to tell a story and to be part of a community in that way.
Yeah. Be in it with you, be as passionate as you are about this project. Absolutely. Can you tell us of any specific, if anything comes to mind, of any kind of like almost like whoopsie moments, or like moments where you were like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have made that decision. Or like, I don't know, but yeah.
I I think definitely, but I think that they're more like personal than like professional. I feel like at least as a professional, as a creative, I give myself maybe too much, but I give myself a lot of like leash, a lot of like leeway to make mistakes. Cause I also think that no matter what happens, I'm gonna fuck something up. I'm gonna mess up. I'm not, I'm always gonna look back and be like, oh, could have done that better. And I think it's like one thing that I like, after I'm done editing a short and like we've color corrected, sound mix, score is in, we've locked it, I never watch it again until I'm like at a festival and I'm like watching it on a screen or something, because after you've locked the cut, there's just like nothing else. There's literally nothing else you can do. So like, what am I going to do? But like, and also I will say it's like watching something years later, you're like, oh, that's not bad. But I think that I have some friends and I know some people in the industry who just like obsess. It was so funny. My husband was a camera operator on a show that just premiered last night, and it's so good. It's so good, and it was so the credits rolled, and I was like, oh. And he was so hard on himself. He was like, I just don't, and he's really critical. So, and it was like, I was like, that's because to me, I'll look at films and I'm like, oh, they're like journal entries of who I was as a creative. So I try not to be critical of myself, which also grants me this permission to be creative and be daring and try things on set. And like, yeah, maybe it won't work later, but maybe it will. And maybe in like worst case scenario, I'll learn something. So, so I'd say creatively, I'm not that rigid with myself, but I think personally, like on set, like this is something really stupid, but personally on set, it was like one of the first short films I shot. And this is so dumb, but it was like lunchtime and I didn't know who to eat lunch with, because it was like my husband was a cinematographer. So he was like eating lunch with the camera people, and everybody kind of had and like the actresses were all eating together, and I didn't know who to eat lunch with, which is so dumb. And I was like, and I came with my husband and I was like, where am I supposed to eat lunch? So anyways, which is like hilarious. So dumb. But I think that it's like also one of the things is that I'm a really like sensitive person. So I think I can like take things too personally, and I have like a lot of anxiety. So, but I think that sometimes, especially when you're on set and you're creating something and you're directing something, it's like, if it's bad, it's your fault. If it's good, it's your fault. So I think that I get really self-conscious sometimes of like, do people think this sucks? Yeah. It's funny. I'm not judging myself, but I'll be worried that someone else is judging me. And I have to remember that it's like, I'm like sucking the joy out of this. I have to like refocus.
I'm the exact same way with my podcast. I love it. I work on it like as hard as I can. But then it comes out and I'm immediately like, well, what about this person listening? Did they enjoy it? I can see that people listened. Did they like it? Are they recommending it to people? I get so panicked about that. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's not why I'm doing this. That's not the process of this. Like, yes, I hope people enjoy it, but I enjoyed it. Exactly. And ultimately that's what matters.
I always throw myself whatever people think of you is none of your business, which I like.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Whatever people think of you is none of your business. Oh, I like that. Yeah, I need to use that in my life. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. Wait, I'll give you a juicy one really fast.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, just because this is fun. Season 4 of Search Party, or basically like every season of Search Party, the main producer was Jake Fuller, who isn't in the industry anymore. He like golfs now. Good for him. And him and I were kind of like partners on set. Like I was like on the creative side and he was the line producer. I mean, and he was great. He was like the head producer. But anyways, and then the last season he couldn't do it. He had gotten like promoted in the world of Jax, and then Jax Media, the production company, and then this other guy, Willie Friedman, took over. And Willie's lovely. And at one point, it was like towards the beginning, and Willie has this UPM, this woman named Annie Tan, who's also lovely. And they have been a partnership they work together all the time on different things. And at one point, it was like, I felt like Search Party was getting taken away from me in this weird way, that it was like, it used to be me and Jake, and now it was me, and now it was just like me, and I was kind of getting pushed to the side, and it was like Annie and Willie, and it was like a tech scout or something. We like went on a tech scout, and I just felt so cast to the side in this way, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is like season 5, like I've been here the longest, like what is happening?
Yeah.
And so it was the end of the day, and I came in to say goodbye, and Annie and Willie were in the office, and Annie is like, Buckles, are you okay? You're usually so bubbly. And I broke down, and I was like, search parties in my show since like season 2. And I like sobbed, and they were like, oh my God.
That's hilarious.
It was ridiculous. Anyways, but and then Willie, I mean, I think they just laughed at me, and then we were like all buddies. But it was funny.
That's the season that I very briefly shadowed you on.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so funny.
You caught me mid-emotional crisis. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, was this happening before or after you started helping me?
Really funny.
That's so funny. I mean, especially for people like set people UPMs, I feel like someone coming in crying to their office probably isn't something they're like used to or know how to handle.
The amount of offices I've cried in is actually pretty. If somebody, I've cried in many an office.
That's me in the subway. I constantly cry on the subway.
Aww.
I'm like literally always, there's always a time when I'm crying on the subway. So for a variety of different reasons,
but now, very New York. Yeah,
exactly. Now I'm truly a New Yorker, and I just don't care anymore. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm going to cry on the subway.
Yeah. They're going to forget about it in 10 minutes. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really funny.
So you mentioned that you're moving around, especially with where your husband's working, but would you otherwise feel this pressure to be in LA? Do you get to, because of your husband's job, moving a lot? Do you get to be in LA a lot and that's helpful for you? Or are you like, screw LA?
I'm a little bit screw LA, but
yes.
But I think the reason I'm like that is I started dating. I was like, I had gotten out of like a 5.5-year terrible relationship, and I was like, broke up with that guy. I was like single for a year, and I started dating this other guy for 6 months, broke up with him. And then I started dating my now husband. This was like in 2019. And so then, and I think that in 2019, I had gotten, I was like the writer's assistant on the other 2 season 2. So I went to LA for like 3 months. And I think at that point I was like, oh yeah, maybe I could like move to LA. But then I came back and then COVID hit. I was like back for like a year, and then COVID hit. And at the time my husband was on a job in Israel. And so he came back, and then he had gotten a house upstate in January 2020. So we were like, oh, we'll just like go up to the house and, and stay for a few weeks. And then obviously it was much longer, and we kind of moved upstate and spent a lot more time there. And then he had a job in New Mexico, and then a job in New York. And then I had Search Party season 5. And so it's kind of just like back-to-back New York jobs after COVID. And I think COVID also made me realize like, oh, where do I want to be? Like, where do I feel good? And especially because everything became so remote and so many things were just not, I think that predominantly the industry is like, yes, in LA. And I think that like my husband's, at least for union camera operators, you have to have a work state, and his work state is New York. And after COVID and after that year, I mean, we were serious enough that it was like, okay, yeah, we're going to like be together. And so I think that at that point, neither one of us really had a desire to go to LA. And honestly, it was like my whole career I've like built is in New York. Like all of my contacts, all of my people are in New York for the most part. So, I mean, I definitely have like friends and connections in LA, but LA was not really where I wanted to be. I do feel like in the last 5 years, I've had like 3 close friends, including like one of my best friends who moved literally on Monday, like are going to LA. And so part of me, I think, is this like panic of like, should I be in LA? Like, is that where I should be? But I don't think so. I really think that unless you're a full-time writer, like a TV writer, or, an exec like an exec at like Warner or Paramount or Disney, or I don't know. I think that you can get away with kind of being anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's just about being where you're happy. And so my next door neighbors are cows, and I live on a big property with a huge garden, and I like it that way.
Yeah. And it makes you happy. I think that's so important. Yeah. And that was how I kind of felt in my entertainment life as well. It's like, I just want to be here in New York, and that's where I'm happiest. Yeah. So I'm going to try and figure out how to be here. Yeah. I want to turn to your podcast, Buckle Up. You've already got so much on your plate. You have so many incredible projects. Why did you decide to start doing this?
I mean, I think I originally started because it's a really organic way to continue to learn. And it's also a way to organically create a community. I think that it's, there's also people that I've always wanted to sit down and talk to. And there's like nothing more annoying than getting like a pick your brain coffee text message or email, which, by the way, if anyone listening wants to be in the industry, ask people for the pick your brain coffee. I think it's like, you have to do it, but
you have to.
But I think that in this capacity, it's like, it felt a little less, it felt more transactional in the sense where it's like, I'm doing it's a little quid pro quo, it's like, I'm doing something for you. And now I get to catch up with you, and I get to hear what you're doing. And I also get to kind of soak up your knowledge. I had, the real reason I started is that I do this thing called To Be Magnetic, which is like a manifestation, not to out myself as a psycho.
I love manifestations. Yes. I'm all about it. Tell me more.
Okay, To Be Magnetic is my favorite because they have this. I started it because Sarah Violet actually from Search Party told me about it. This is like season 5, and we would talk. Maybe she even told me season 4. It was pre-COVID for sure. So I started to do it, and and it's not, it's not like The Secret where it's like, I put it on my vision board and It's about like actually, being like, hey, like these are the things I like want, but like taking accountability for your part in all of it. And also like doing like actual meditation and work that's like inner work of being like, what is it? Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but of, like an issue I have will be, I was just thinking about this actually. This is like women, sorry, this is because there's this podcast I've expanded that was just recently, but it was like this, Jessica Gill hosts it. But there's this woman, and she was talking about, wait, hold on, I have to look because it'll drive me fucking bonkers if I don't. It's How to Reframe Jealousy and Step into Your Power with Elise Lowen. So she is an author, and she wrote Choosing Wholeness Over Goodness, and guides us through What Now. They explore how envy and expansion are connected. Anyways, it's this whole thing of where I think that it's like really shamed for people to be like, there's like a difference between jealousy and envy. I think that it's like, jealousy is like you want something and you don't want somebody else to have it. And envy is like seeing something in somebody else and being like, I want that too. But, so I there's like a difference, obviously. But I think that like as women, we are taught that you cannot have, if another woman has it, you cannot have it because there's not enough room for both of you. And so I think it's like why a lot of women, you see a lot of like women tearing each other down. I think it's why, not to get political, but I think it's why some of like Trump supporting women hate other women. It's like, it's because it's just, it's like uncomfortable for them to see another woman succeeding.
Yeah. It's like an internalized misogyny.
Exactly. It's an internalized misogyny. And I think that it was like, I saw this actress recently who I think is like really fucking annoying. Sorry, I'll say it. And I was like at the gym, and I was like, maybe that's a me problem. But like, you know what I mean? It was like, I was like, why do I give a shit? She's like, she's crushing it. You know what I mean? And I think it's really easy in culture and society now, especially with like social media, it's like just scrolling. It's impossible not to do the compare game.
Yes.
Of like, where is this person? What are they doing? And sometimes it's like, I'll think about something. It's like, oh, I want that. And it's like, do I want that because I actually genuinely want that? Or because somebody else on social media told me that I wanted it? And I think that the To Be Magnetic stuff is about getting closer to your authentic self, of trying to be like, okay, I want X, Y, and Z things. Why do I want these things? Like, what authentic core values are they connecting to? And so I do a lot of that. But anyways, so big reason I started this podcast was because I think that part of getting your manifestations and part of is just by like understanding that it's possible. It's like, in To Be Magnetic language, they would call it an expander. So it's like somebody who has something that you don't, that's like, that maybe you are experiencing envy from, of being like, it wouldn't even be like in your purview if it wasn't meant for you in some capacity, first of all. And second of all, it's like, sometimes you'll be like, if you see yourself in somebody else, it'll like click and be like, oh, that's possible for me too. Yeah. And it's just this like subconscious like rewiring. You know, it was like there's like a good example about that Lacey Phillips, the woman who like founded it, talks about is she doesn't say this exact thing, but it's like the theory of like, if you grow up, like for me, I grew up in like a middle class, you know, family in New Mexico, and both my parents were lawyers. And so when I would talk about, oh, if I don't succeed in the industry, I'm going to become a lawyer, because that's like a really plausible thing for me. I understand how to do that. And that's like, that makes sense. And like, I could easily go be a lawyer. But somebody else who grew up in a completely different way, you know, they don't even have the first like inkling or understanding of how to get to that point. Sometimes it can feel like impossible to them, which is also why I think like, you know, Nepo babies, and I'm using quotes, exist. That it's like, of course they exist. It's like they grew up around that with their families. So it's always been possible for them. It's like access, but isn't that with everything?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's kind of how I feel about this podcast and why I started this podcast. Yeah. Because I was benefiting so much hearing other people's stories and indeed having that moment where you could think it was possible, and having built out this community. And I was like, I'm so lucky to have this community of people who I can turn to and ask for advice, or I can learn from their story. Let me see how I can bring this to other people. Yeah. And that's literally why I started this one as well.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it's selfishly, it's like, here are the things I want to know. I'm also, you know, trying to start a family. And so it like really freaked me out, the idea of like losing myself as a creative, but I really want that for myself as like a person. And so it was really helpful to listen to women who I respect and admire talk about that transition for them. And I've also, since I've started the podcast, you know, I mean, just like proof is in the pudding, is like, I've talked to like several people who are gotten their films financed, and I've since gotten my film financed. Or, you know, a couple of people, and not to say like this is how it works, but as like, just like the more people you talk to. And also it's like, I do live upstate. So it's like, I'm not like out talking. Like I said, I clock out at 9 p.m. So, you know, so it's like, this is also a really good way. It's just, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. Well, where can people find Buckle Up?
Okay. Anywhere podcasts are listened to, Spotify or iTunes.
Yay. I recommend everyone to go listen. It's amazing. I've listened. It's awesome. You do such a good job. I want to turn to your journey to where you are now, kind of going back a little bit. What first pulled you into the entertainment industry? You said your parents were lawyers. You grew up in New Mexico. What drew you to this space? And has there been a moment where you've been like, yeah, this is why I do it?
Yes. I mean, I'll say, I feel like I've told this story in my podcast before, but maybe I edited it out. I don't know. But I used to be a professional horseback rider. That was like, I started riding horses when I was, I think like 6, and I went pro.
I did not know this.
Yes, I went pro when I was 17. I like moved to Canada. Like it was like a whole thing. And then the economy crashed, and I basically, if you are in like show jumping or dressage, you either are really filthy rich or you work for somebody who's filthy rich. And I was the latter. I didn't have like money. I worked for people. And I think that after the economy crashed, and definitely horseback riding is like a luxury thing, it took a hit for sure. And I think that it was twofold. I think One thing was that it was the year that Obama was running for office. And my parents are both super liberal, progressive. My dad got the death penalty repealed in New Mexico when I was like in college. It's like big deal. So like,
that's so cool. Mic drop right there.
Yes, he won like a Lifetime Achievement Award. It was like very cool. Anyways, and a lot of those people in that like industry were pretty conservative. And I remember being like, oh, I'm not like these people. And not these, I'm saying these people loosely because at the time, very different. It was a very different political landscape then, obviously. R.I.P. But yeah, so and I think that it was also, there was a horseback riding trainer, a guy named Paul Rohrbach, and him and this other trainer, Hendrik Gunderson, who I also trained with, were like, if you can do anything else, do it. And I think it was like, I only had like catastrophic health insurance and I was like on Obamacare because of my parents. And so I think I had like 6 years left of Obamacare or something. Anyways, all to say that I like quit riding horses and I went back to college and I did like one semester and I wound up majoring in theater. And I met my acting teacher who was essentially like, hey, you don't need an education to work in the film industry. And so I was paying for my own education because I had previously dropped out for horses and I had forfeited my scholarship and my parents couldn't afford to pay for my education. So I was going to have to be like incurring a lot of debt. And so I decided I didn't want to do that. So I dropped out. I sold my car, all my things, and I moved to New York and I kind of like created my own education. I bartended, I did all these things. And yeah, I mean, that's how I got to New York and I wound up studying at this place called the Barrow Group, which I still work with, the Seth Barish and Lee Brock at the Barrow Group. They're the best. But Seth was co-directing a film with Mike Birbiglia called Sleepwalk with Me. And Mike Lavoie was the AD, and he was like one of like Mike Birbiglia's producers. And I started working for him, and I sort of became like a PA, and then moved up to co-producer on different one-man shows like Colin Quinn, The New York Story, Oh Hello with Nick Kroll and John Mulaney, like things. I mean, and then Mike and Carly, who are producing partners, they're like big time now. They're the ones who produced Oh Mary, and they were like,
oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yeah, so they're amazing. I love both of them. But yeah, I worked for them for a while. And then at one point, Colin, he did a pilot presentation with Jax called Luncheonette that Lily Burns directed.
Yeah.
And so that is where I met Tony Hernandez and Lily Burns of Jax Media at the time. And then Tony asked if I needed a job, and I sort of got the opportunity to be the associate producer on Search Party. And that was how all that happened. But during all that, I was like doing stand-up, producing my own stuff, writing my own things. And and I also like was a producer on like Chris Gethard's show on Fusion I did like odds and ends for a while, but I think that like Search Party was my first like kind of like hook into, I think it literally took me probably 7 years to feel like I wasn't going to have to go back to bartending after a job ended.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
To feel that level of comfort. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
When did you discover your interest in writing and directing? You were going to study theater.
Yeah.
You were acting. What happened there?
So actually, when I was in New Mexico, I had this therapist. Her name's Hillary. I think her name's Hillary Hale. She'll never listen to this, but I remember one time we were like in a session and I told her that I wanted to move to New York and be an actress. And she was like, I don't think that's going to happen. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, and she goes, I think you're going to be a director. I can see you in the chair and everything. I was like,
no way.
This bitch doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. So I moved to New York and I was like, yes, I was like studying at the Barrow Group to act. And I really loved it and I was good. And I got like a bunch of like cool auditions and different things. But okay, so there's this thing that if anybody is a millennial and was in New York and acting, will know what this is. I don't even know if it's still around, honestly, but there's these things they were like Actors Connection, The Network, and One-on-One. And they're these like businesses that essentially pay casting directors to come to these kind of, studios in New York. And they basically give audition coaching for these actors. So you get like sides, and then you get in front of like the class and you do your sides, and then the casting director gives you notes. And it's like a good place. It was like it was the 2010s version of getting like discovered in a mall. It was like, you did it because you were like there to learn something, quote unquote, but you're also doing it to like meet the casting director. There's always like one kid that would be like, and what's the best way to stay in touch with you? And it was like, you'd still do like your headshot on like a postcard. I remember my first trip to LA, I like printed out headshots and like drove them to different casting offices. Like back when that was still like a thing. Not to like age myself, but anyways. And then I think it was one of those classes. I had a casting director who I won't name her because I don't think that she's this person, but I like finished my scene and she goes, it's funny because you're not fat enough to be a character actor, but you're not pretty enough to be an ingenue. And it was like, and I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, it was so crazy. And I think that like in that moment it hit me. I was like, oh, I have zero control. I have like zero agency or control. And I think that maybe that's like changed a little bit more now too. But I think at the time I was like, I just want so much more agency in my life and in my career. And so I was like, okay, I'm not, like I'm going to still act, but I'm going to like make my own things. I'm going to do my own stuff. And I think it was like, that was like kind of how producing happened, was that it was like, no one else was going to produce it for me. And then I directed, kind of like realized that I was directing, like hindsight. I would be like, oh, this is the job of a director. And I was like, oh, I guess I've kind of been doing that already, like in my own stuff. So, and I think that that's definitely where I feel the most like comfortable and alive. I did a short film called Other Side that I starred in, and my friend Lacey Jecka was in with me, Claire McNulty, Rebecca Robles, and it was really fun. But I remember the times I had the most fun was when I was behind the camera. And I think that was the first moment where I was like, I think I'm done acting. Like, if somebody were going to like offer me a role today, like I would do it for fun, but it's definitely not, who I am anymore.
Wow. Shout out Hillary for calling that so early.
That's so funny. I know. I should like find her email. That's really funny.
You should, and be like, by the way, look what happened. That's so funny. I love that. I think the next thing that I would love to know is, given all your writing and your directing, you're constantly creating content. How do you, I guess, like sharpen your skills or feel like you improve or things like that? How are you, getting feedback and learning from that process?
Writing is easy to get feedback. I mean, I think that it's like, I'm very much like a self-taught screenwriter. I did a lot of, taking my favorite films and picking them apart. Like, I think Home Alone and Bridesmaids are perfect. They are absolutely like structurally perfect. And so I would like take those scripts apart a lot. Your Sister, directed by the late Lynn Shelton, is like one of my favorite movies that I like took apart. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Any of like the Coen brothers stuff. Like I did a lot of just taking apart movies that I loved. And I was like, why does this work? And then, or looking at movies that I didn't think were good and thinking like, why doesn't this work? And also it's like when you write something, if you have, a willing friend, which I thankfully do, Sarah Dolan, and you can send it to a friend to have them read and get feedback. And I mean, even in this like rom-com process, like I wanted to blow my brains out. It was like, because it really isn't it was really fun. But it was also like, it's not my structure or style. So it was like, it was definitely an exercise and it was hard to do. So, but then it was like, it's so satisfying. Like once it like everything all clicks in, it's like, oh, so nice. So I think just like continuously writing getting to your computer. I think another reason, like I have a Substack as well. And a big reason why I started the Substack was that it was like, I just want to get to the computer and write. And sometimes it's like, you can feel really stuck in a story, and it's very helpful to just write about something. It's like completely unrelated, whatever. So that for writing. For directing, I think that it's like, it's harder because for directing, you do need, a bigger, you need like actors, you need an editor, you just need so many things. I think that it's like, I also think it's like no excuses, like grab your friends, go, grab your iPhone and just go direct your friends. Like I said this recently where it's like, if you have friends who are actors, it's like, there's so much self-taping now, help them self-tape. And if they're like, open to like some notes, like I think doing a lot of that. But I also think for directing, I also like, it is like, obviously you need like a full film set to like fully practice, like talking to actors and doing that. But there's also like Seth Barish teaches a class, even just taking acting classes. If you're a director, you should have taken an acting class, and Barrow Group is really good. That's like a really good one. But I also think that like building decks and, taking apart a scene and shot listing it. Mary Lou Belli, who I, interviewed on my podcast, she's a DGA member. She's directed like an obscene amount of TV shows, but before she got her first episode, she directed 90 episodes, or she shot listed 90 episodes of TV before she ever got on set to direct an episode.
Really?
And so it's like, it is the like 10,000 hours of like practice.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a director, you should know how to shot list. If you want to be a writer, you should be writing. If you want to be an actor, you should be acting. And not having the job is not an excuse. So I think all of those are like, there's always a way to practice.
Yeah. Like you said, 10,000 hours, sharpen those skills, do what you can to make it happen if you really do want to make it happen. Yeah. Looking back overall at your career, is there a decision or an opportunity that ended up, you think, having the biggest impact on your path? You said search parties when you feel comfortable, but was there just like a decision or a moment that you were like, that was my turning point?
I think I have a couple. I think a big one for me was leaving Jax Media. I was never like a full-time employee of Jax Media. I called myself like a permalancer. I did like job after job after job with them. And I'm so, so grateful to them for sure. But I think that saying no to the next thing was the first time that I was like telling myself, like, I can take a chance on me. I can try something else. And because I think that like once you're seen as one thing by people, it's really hard to get them to see you another way, especially in the industry. Cause like people are lazy, it's like once they understand you one way, they just want to keep you that way. And so I think that it's like, you do have to just like show up again and again and again and say like, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and so I think that, and then I also think that when I got the call that I was going to be in the Sony Diverse Directors Program for the class of 2022, I mean, like thousands of people apply to those things. And so when I got in, I was so I like sobbed. I was so gobsmacked. It was also just like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh my God, I can do it. Yeah. Cause it's like, it's like, so, it's like, I wish I could sit here and be like, do it for yourself, like blah, blah, blah. Like, which is like true. Like, yes, you shouldn't be doing something for external validation, but the first time that somebody sees you and is like, I think you've got something, it feels so good to be like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think have your talent recognized.
Yeah, for sure.
Must have been amazing. Yeah. I love that. Well, it is almost time to wrap up, but I would love to get some like very specific advice from you. Yeah. I think the first thing I have to ask is just general advice. What would be the first thing you say to someone who just dreams of becoming a creative?
Okay, I think that one of my favorite pieces of advice that I heard not that long ago, it's an old interview, but it's an interview with Donald Glover. And
love Donald Glover.
He's amazing. He's like one of my faves. And I think something he said, which I was like, yes, is no one is on their deathbed saying, I was too cringe. I think that it's like it's like my inner critic of myself. I'll be like, I'm trying too hard. I'm doing too much. And I think that the antithesis to all that, I would say, try too hard, do too much, be cringe. Like, if everybody likes you, you're not trying hard enough. Like, nobody wants to be the fucking Cheesecake Factory, be the Japanese restaurant, the sushi place that's like fucking delicious that only has like a table, like, I don't know. It's like, do your thing well. And, as somebody, it's like, I've been doing this now. I moved here in 2011 and I've been in the industry, working in the industry since then. And, I'm just now getting my footing and feeling like I'm expressing myself creatively in a way that's going to sustain me financially. It's been over a decade. So I think that it's frustrating to hear, but it isn't about the destination. You do just have to find a way to enjoy the journey, because if you don't, then you shouldn't be doing this.
That is excellent advice.
Thanks.
I feel like that's something that I literally, like, I'm gobsmacked. Yeah, I am lost for words, because I think that's just such excellent advice, and something that I often don't even take to heart in my mind and in my own life as well. It's hard, but it is about the journey, and you have to enjoy that journey. And I was actually just thinking about how I don't want to look back in life and be like, I didn't appreciate the time that
100
I had or what I was doing.
It's a daily struggle for me too. It's not like I'm like, got that, figured it out. Every day it's like, I'm trying to remind myself, it's like, oh, it's happening. My life is happening right now. Like, stop, like, look around, be grateful. Yeah. So.
No, exactly. And similarly, for moments where it does get tough, there is rejection, which is going to happen, some dry spells, maybe some burnout. What advice would you have for dealing with that?
I think have more than this. I think that it's like really important to sometimes, I think it's important, like, don't let life get away from you. Like, if you want a partner, if you want a family, if you want, find other things. I was actually just listening to Roger Deakins and James Deakins have a podcast. I forget. I think it's literally just called the Deakins podcast, but they were interviewing Barry Jenkins. It's a great episode, but they were just talking about, I think it was Roger who was saying something. He was quoting somebody else of like, or like Barry was like, at a certain point, he was like, I wasn't, some certain movies didn't work out because I didn't know myself enough yet. I hadn't like lived enough life. And, I really strongly believe that stories are essential to humanity. And I think that you can't understand living and humanity and what that means until you've actually lived. And so I think that, like, don't forget to like live, don't forget to have other things. Don't forget that this isn't it.
Always important to have hobbies and side projects and things like that. And because you never know where those will lead as well.
100%.
For sure. Yeah. And then what's one mistake that you see young creatives making, and what would you say to them on how to avoid making that mistake?
I think this is an oldie but a goodie. I think that if you're like coming into the industry, and I think like I must have done this early on, and I think a lot of people do this early on too, but they're like, if I'm not successful by XYZ date, then I'll be a speech therapist, or I'll be, whatever. I think that it's okay if that's your headspace on the offset, but I think that the truth is that that's just not how this industry works. Yeah. It's like, it's really unforgiving in a way can be really rewarding. And so I think that, don't, if you're only going to give yourself 4 years to do something, then don't do it. Because I just think that that's a bad headspace to come from.
Like we said earlier, it's about the journey. It's about the day-to-day, the work that you're putting in every day.
Exactly. I get to get up every single day, and I get to tell stories and like hone my craft. And, that's crazy. I like that. I'm so lucky.
Yeah. I think to wrap up the advice section, what is the best career advice, or just really any advice actually that you've received that that has helped you in your path?
I mean, I think because this is like top of mind for me, I think that, yeah, I think it's just like a lot of like, because I'm, thinking of like, I'm like going to be starting a family. And I think, yeah, I just think that life is happening anyways, whether I have the things in career or not, life is happening anyways. So I think that nobody's waiting for me. I have to do it. And I think my favorite advice that's like not family related, I will say, is from Jay Duplass and Mark Duplass' book called Like Brothers, and it's The Calvary Isn't Coming.
Well, I feel like that could be interpreted in so many different ways.
I mean, I think how they meant it and how I received it is that I think that it's like, and Barry Jenkins talks about this in that interview as well, of just being like, in the early days, you're like, okay, I did my homework, notice me. Okay, I did the thing. It's time for me to get my big deal. Okay, I did the thing where, I think it's like, and I totally get that mentality because I've been that person. I still can be that person sometimes. But I think it's just that, nobody's coming to rescue you. The magic thing is not coming. You have to be your own magic. You have to be your own Calvary. You have to like, even just like making this like feature film, it's like, I'm so lucky that I have a producing partner who like gives a shit about what I have to say and wants to help. Like, but I met him in 2021. It's been like a long journey, and it's like, and also I've been trying to make a feature since 2022. It's just, it's a long journey. It just takes a really long time. And so I think that it's like, if you can know that no one's coming to save you, that you need to save yourself. I think that's like where the secret sauce is.
One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is that I just love getting everyone's advice because it's so different from person to person, from industry to industry.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's so cool, and also always is helpful in my life. And I feel like I'm just benefiting from everyone else's wisdom. Well, one more question for you. We've touched on it a little bit, but for you, Buckles, what's next?
Dinner, hopefully. I'm starving.
Dinner, yes.
Immediate dinner. And I think, right now I'm going to shadow a show in LA. That's going to be for 2 weeks, which I'm excited about. And then right after that, I'm going to Arkansas to scout for my feature.
That is so exciting. Oh my gosh. Well, we'll have to have you back to check in on how those projects have gone and hear how much more you have in the pipeline. And everyone go check out Buckle Up. Go listen. It's awesome. You learn so much from Buckles and her guests. So no, thank you for coming on. I really appreciated it. And I appreciate your time and your knowledge and your story. And great. Good luck with everything that's coming up.
Thanks, Lacey.